my name is Qingqing Lin. I'm the past chair of the B-MEIS interest section. Let me introduce our interest section. The whole name of our interest section is Bilingual-Multilingual interest section is dedicated to promote multilingual awareness and also best practice in multilingual education. We are honored to have Dr. Lin today to give us this webinar titled Simply Talking, Bringing the World Together Through Discord. And I want to introduce Dr. Lin. Dr. Lin has been teaching English to EFL students and international students in the US for over 15 years. And she's currently the director of Eduling International Academy, which offers online English courses to students from any location. Her research interests include L2 language pedagogy, test-based language teaching, and international education. So many of us all want to bring students together or bring the world to a student. So I'm very excited to see her introducing a new tool for us to facilitate the student interaction. So Dr. Lin, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Qingqing, for your introduction. And thank you, Qingqing and Clara, for inviting me to give this webinar. And let me share with you my screen, and I will introduce myself a little bit more. So let me share the screen here. So like Qingqing mentioned, I am a teacher, I am a researcher, I am also a novice entrepreneur in a way. And to me, an entrepreneur means to find solutions for some existing problems. And I will explain what kind of problem I'm trying to solve through this project. And the title of my presentation is Simply Talking, Bringing the World Together Through Discord. And I'm going to explain everything in the title here in a few minutes. And like Qingqing mentioned, I am the director of Eduling International Academy. We offer online English classes to students from any location. And my passion has always been to bring students together to interact and to talk. My full-time job actually is to teach international students at a university in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And if you haven't heard of Pittsburgh, I hope you will find out that Pittsburgh is going to host the TESOL convention in March 2022. So I hope to see a lot of colleagues in person next year. And in my full-time job, I have been engaged in a lot of programs and activities to also bring students together for conversations. And with that experience, I wanted to extend the opportunities for students to do that online as well. So let me share with you my motivation to start this project. First, in terms of oral communication, I think you all agree that English has been used as a lingua franca, right? When people from different countries come together, English is one common language to use to communicate. So in a way, I think that this presentation is suitable for the intersection of bilingual and multilingual education in the sense that we speak different languages. When English is not our first language, it means that we speak another language and we can use different linguistic resources in our communication. In addition, I think you would agree with me that oral communication is an important goal of many English learners. When learners learn English, they want to communicate in English. So I would like to give this quote here from Graves, 2008, that the purposes of learning a language in target removed contexts like Vietnam or Japan or China or other countries are varied, but the thrust is to learn language to communicate, to improve one's economic prospects, and to expand one's horizons, both literally or figuratively, to be a global citizen. So you can see that communicating in English is really an important goal for many learners. However, the issue is that speaking is actually difficult to master. It requires so many skills, knowledge, and it's difficult to master. There is lack of opportunities to practice speaking. When students learn English, I think I hear over and over again the complaints that they don't have enough opportunities to practice speaking. And speaking is anxiety provoking, right? Among the different skills that students use in English, listening, reading, writing, speaking, you can say that speaking is anxiety provoking to learners. And a very common phenomenon in many EFL contexts is that students are not willing to communicate. So the unwillingness to communicate in the classroom is also an issue. In addition, me as a teacher as well, we noticed that sometimes in the classroom, the teachers talk way so much more than students, and there's not much time left for students to communicate in the target language. This is understandable in the sense that we have so many objectives to cover and so many things to cover in the classroom. So sometimes it is really difficult to dedicate time to students speaking. And for me, this is my personal belief, and I think I have read this somewhere, and I take this to heart, that to me, every instance of language use is an instance of language learning. In learning a foreign language or a second language, every instance of language use is an instance of language learning. And communicative orientation to language learning is important for learner autonomy. And I take this to heart because I learned English in Vietnam. I grew up in Vietnam. I learned English in Vietnam. And my orientation at that time, I think, was very much on preparing for tests and exams. And you can see the tests and exams are so important in many contexts. And that was my orientation to learning a language. I also wanted to master the language as a subject. It's like a subject to master. But I also found extra opportunities to use the language. And I realized that you can only become truly autonomous in language learning when you also have this communicative orientation to use English to communicate. So all these issues give me motivation to start this project, in which I wanted to provide extra opportunities for students to speak English. Okay, so talking about creating opportunities for students to communicate in the target language, there are already models out there, right? In the classroom, students have opportunities, but there have been efforts among teachers and practitioners to facilitate interaction among students from different countries, across cultures, across borders. And you might have read a lot about telecollaboration, because this term is actually really common in our field in foreign language education. And I remember reading these articles because these researchers and practitioners were working at Penn State, and I actually attended Penn State in my master's program. And in these projects, they paired or they facilitated collaboration between students in the US learning German or French and students in Germany and French. And this has been called telecollaboration. However, there has been some critique of this term in the sense that tele means distance. I mean, students are not so far away from each other all the time in order to use technology to communicate. And the word collaboration may be a little bit limited. And recently, this term may be a little bit more popular in the sense that basically this is about online communication. So the word virtual and the word exchange kind of capture the meaning a little bit better, but there has also been critique in the use of the word virtual in the sense that it's not real. But basically, when you look at virtual exchange, the definition that is used by I think by the European commission here, which sponsors a lot of virtual exchange projects. Virtual exchange here refers to technology-enabled, sustained people-to-people education programs. And there have been a lot of reports on the impact of these programs on students' learning, and the impact has mostly been really positive. Another model that you might have heard is that with the rise of social media and also with the provision of different services from third-party providers, you might have heard of Live Mocha or iTalki, Facebook, WhatsApp, and some other applications here that offer students the opportunity to talk with native speakers as well as with other users of English. So you can see that there are all the efforts or projects of people doing these things. And in the context of learning beyond the classroom, and perhaps these are not really virtual or online, you might have heard of language tables, conversation hours, language clubs, self-access learning center, or student learning communities that also provide extra opportunities for students to learn a language. So to me, my project is a little bit different because it doesn't really fit into any of these very neatly. So I want to present it to you, and perhaps it can be something that you can also adopt or tweak to fit your situation. So let me move on here. Actually, my research is on learner engagement, and in particular, with engagement in speaking. So if I want to organize speaking opportunities for students, then what facilitates engagement? And this is really important to me. And I draw from this when I design activities. So that's why I want to explain this a little bit more before moving on. So engagement has been defined as the state of heightened attention and involvement in which participation is reflected in cognitive, social, behavioral, and I missed something, and affective dimensions. So the 4 dimensions that are often mentioned in engagement, facilitating learners' engagement as well. But more importantly, according to my own research, as well as some other researchers or scholars research here, topics that are personally relevant to learner are more likely to engage them or more likely to facilitate their engagement in speaking. And there has to be an appropriate level of challenge, differences among speakers of different backgrounds, creating a genuine need for communication or intercultural interaction also facilitates engagement. And this is really clear in several projects or research projects that I have conducted, not only the ones that are cited here, that learners feel more interested or more engaged when they have the opportunities to interact with people from different cultures and different backgrounds. In addition, when learners have choice and when they feel like they have the freedom of expressing themselves, their involvement is also higher. So I use some of these findings to kind of also guide the development of my project. Zooming out a little bit, I was just talking about the concept of learner engagement in a particular speaking activity or in a particular task. But if you want to facilitate engagement, you may also think about the psychology of the learner, right? So in this case, to motivate learners to get them ready to engage, then they also need to feel the sense of competence, of success. They need to feel a sense of relatedness, and they need to feel a sense of autonomy. So these have been considered the antecedents of motivation and engagement. In addition, they are important for community building as well. And by putting together this project, I also aim to kind of facilitate a better sense of community so that students will come back and feel more comfortable participating in the activity. So now let me move on to talk about the project here. And by the way, I don't see a lot of you. So maybe something that I can do so that I don't talk too long is, if you have questions, please feel free to type in the chat, and then I will try to check the chat and see if you have questions and maybe try to answer as I present. Okay. Maybe let me just talk a little bit of who has tried to create opportunities for students from different countries and different cultures to interact, or different linguistic backgrounds to interact. Or Ching Ching, yes, you can share more later as well. And who else? I'm just curious because I just realized that I just talked and talked. Okay, everyone. Yeah, it was hard. That will be one of my conclusions as well, and you will see why. Okay, thank you for sharing. So the project that I started here was titled Eduling Everyday English. This was part of my work with Eduling, and it is free. It was free for participants. This is the flyer that I used to promote the opportunity, and it kind of captures the main components of the project. So I'm sharing with you here. There are videos, and I will explain the role of the videos. Students can practice everyday conversations, academic discussions, IELTS, TOEFL topics, table topics, communicative tasks, and every week there was one live group practice session. Yeah, okay. Teresa also mentioned that she created a Facebook group for teachers. Yeah. And here, if you don't know Discord, this is their logo. So I just want to show it to you so that later on when you look for it, you know what to look for. So let me move on here and explain. Again, these are the main components of the project. I record, and every week I record and share an interview. And then I share a list of questions or tasks on Discord so that participants can prepare for the questions and the tasks in advance. And then I also invite them to join a Facebook group for support. And this is the group that is still running. That was when I started the Facebook group, actually. And the project ran between March and May. And we actually met one another every Monday morning, 10 a.m. US Eastern Time. So that is the evening for many of my students in Vietnam. The information about the project is actually shared here. So let me see if I can copy. No, I'm sorry. And share it to you in the chat, maybe not now. But let me just share this to you very quickly. Let me click on it. Okay, it doesn't let me go there directly, maybe. Okay, let me escape this and let me share with you some of the information that I posted on the website to engage, share the information. So you can see that the information is posted here to instruct participants how to join the live discussion. Oh, where is it? Okay, I'm sorry. Let me go all the way back. And I will talk about the website later as well. In terms of developing topics and tasks, I try to include familiar and potentially interesting topics since they are important for engagement. And like I mentioned, our research has indicated that familiar topics are more likely to engage learners than unfamiliar ones. And also topics that they find personally relevant to them are also more likely to engage the students better. there are IELTS topics. I don't know if you are familiar with the IELTS exam. So in the IELTS exam, you have 3 parts, right? So part 1 is like a conversation. So you ask kind of very common everyday English questions. There are also questions that allow learners to talk for 2 minutes. So they are called long terms. And there are more abstract questions for discussion as well. So I used those topics in for the students to discuss. I also used some table topics. So if you search for table topics, you may see some suggestions of what kind of questions. These questions can be outrageous or can be funny. So my hope is that they will also engage learners more. I also included topics suggested by students. I created some games for them as well, like people bingo. So they have to talk to many people and they have to find out who has done what, basically, and I will share with you. I also asked them to do some collaborative storytelling, right? Each person can contribute a sentence to a story. I also created some decision-making tasks. So I'm gonna show you maybe quickly the topics there. I think okay. So let me show you some topics for discussion. Like I mentioned to you, the project ran between March and May, and the first week was actually here, March the 12th year, and you can see that I on Discord, this is not Discord, and I don't want to show it to you there because there are names of participants that I don't think I should show. But basically, I share with them a video and then the questions that they can prepare for in advance. And then I also help them, I also introduce maybe some words that are useful for them or some phrases that are useful for them. Introducing some new language or interesting language in the task materials have been shown to be helpful for students in their subsequent task performance. So that's why I tried to include some language here for them to pay attention to. So you can see week 1, our topic was family and friends. And then week 2, we have birthdays. And the format is somewhat similar in that we have conversation, we have long terms, we have serious discussion, table topics. So some examples of table topic questions include, do you think crying is a sign of weakness or strength? So kind of fun questions. Sometimes I call them fun questions. And then we have a lot of other topics here: food, home, the internet, study abroad, and sport. Students also suggested sport as a topic. So then I included it. And also because in an interview with a speaker, he also talked about sports. And then here we have what topic? Dreams, music, learning resources. This is when I started to ask them to engage in a task. And this is a decision-making task because each participant had to come up with 3 language learning resources, and then they would have to talk to agree on 3, and then they shared the results on Discord. And then we have other topics here, and you can see that I try to create a game, People Bingo, here, and I use Google Form to do that. So I want to show you very quickly some of those topics. And let me stop here and see if anything in the chat. Topics to talk about, yeah. Yeah, topics to talk about. So I have a list of IELTS topics. If you're interested, I can also share with you. It is a source of topics for me to draw from, but you can also search table topics. Like I say, a lot of interesting table topic questions, really interesting. I have found some questions in the form of would you rather. would you rather lick a toe or something really outrageous? I cannot think of an example right now. Would you rather be able to fly or be able to live in the ocean, something like that? So really interesting questions in terms of developing tasks. And when I talk about tasks, I use a very technical sense of the word task in task-based language teaching. And I often use the 4 criteria from Rod Ellis to define what a communicative task is. So the first one is there needs to be, the primary focus has to be on meaning, right? Not on practicing a form, but on meaning. There has to be a gap. It can be an information gap, a communicative gap. It can be information gap. It can be opinion gap. So far the tasks that I used are opinion gap, because if they come up with 3 different learning resources and then other students came up with other resources, then there's a community gap there. There needs to be a communicative outcome. And in this case, they need to be agree on the 3 resources for the group. So that's the communicative outcome. And learners have to use their own linguistic resources instead of practicing some forms that are provided to them. So that may be something that you can think about when you think about what students can do when they talk with one another. Let me look at the chat again. I like the framework, yeah. But actually, I have found, I will talk more about this as well. I have found it not easy to develop tasks in an online environment. Okay, so let me move on. Let me talk about the recorded interviews. I also think that it is easier for learners to respond to something instead of just talking about something off the top of their head, right? So if they have something that they can imitate or they can learn from, if they have something to respond to, I also feel that they have more to talk about. And that's why I recorded these videos. And in these videos, I interviewed people that I called expert language users, right? Actually, I mean, I can give you some example here, and I just interviewed them for about 5 minutes. I asked them some questions among the questions that I also gave to the learners. And then I analyze the language that is used there. And I teach a little bit vocabulary or grammar or pronunciation in those videos. And each video is about 10 minutes long. Throughout the project, I think I managed to interview 3 people. So let me share with you the YouTube. I posted these videos on YouTube, and this is the part that took me a lot of time. So I interviewed a teacher here, and her name is Lara, and I interviewed her about family and friends. And then in the same interview session, I also interviewed her about birthdays. So that's how I saved a little time here. I interviewed another colleague. His name is Jerry, and he also has a YouTube channel. So he's very experienced in this. He talked about home and the internet and food, and he just provides an excellent model for students, I think, to answer these questions. I also talked to Dr. B-MEIS from Australia, and actually he volunteered to be interviewed just by seeing my post on LinkedIn. It was just so nice of him. And so I could create some videos to provide students to watch before they participate in those sessions. And then later on, I created just other videos by myself. So no interviews, but I had a few interviews here for them. So let me go back to the PowerPoint here. Let me see if you have questions or comments. Who has created YouTube videos before for your students? And what do you think about it? I'm not seeing anyone on camera, so I will rely on the chat. And I'm still learning to do this because creating videos takes so much time, especially editing videos takes so much time. But the second thing is that creating videos that utilize instructional design principles so that we don't overload students, or in a way that is interesting but is also helpful for students. It's not an easy thing either. So Flipgrid is great. Yeah, okay. It helps with editing. Yeah. The reason why I recorded videos is that this is totally an optional project, so participants can or could join anytime. So it was not part of a class at all. So that's why I need to share materials in a way that are accessible to them at any time. So that's what, and I have to say it took a lot of time. Okay, so let me move on and let me share with you Discord here. Who has heard of this platform before? Okay, Anastasia, can you share with us a little bit about your experience with it? Yeah, okay. Yes, but never used. Okay. Yeah, I didn't know about it until I worked with someone else who used it, and he introduced it to me. I was skeptical before because we were all in love with Zoom, right? But then I decided to try it, and I liked some features of it. So Discord is actually very popular among young people because it started as a platform that allowed gamers to play games together. So to play games and interact with one another at the same time. And they are special in that they can suppress some of the noise from the game, so players can play together and then still interact with one another. But then they kind of shifted to become somewhat a place where people can just go and talk. And after researching it, I also have found that it is very common in a lot of universities in which students use it to organize clubs, virtual clubs. And the different thing so let me explain some of the features of Discord here. You can access the web version of Discord, or you can download an app to your computer. And the thing here is that different from Zoom, students can join this anytime. When they have an app on the computer, they can just come, and if they see people there, they can talk to people. So that is the feature that I like. So here, this is an infographic that I use to explain the different features of Discord here. When they enter Discord, they're gonna see topics and questions. So when they click on this, they're gonna see the questions and the topics for the week. They can use the text channels to chat. So you can have a lot of channels here. They can ask teacher, they can just talk with other students in the chat room. They can be off topic. So you can create as many channels as you find suitable. They also have voice channels. So in the voice channels here, I created different groups, and you can see number 4 here. It means that the maximum number of users who can join this group is 4. So if one user is here, it's gonna show 1. If 2 is here, it's gonna show 2. So when participants come here, they can decide which group to join to talk. Yes, they can join asynchronously. And if nobody is there, then of course there's nobody for them to talk to. But if people are there, then they can start some voice conversations. And actually, they can also turn on their video as well, and they can share the screen as well. Yes, I set up the groups in advance. And usually at the beginning of a session, I tell the participants to go to the lounge here so that I can make some announcements, and then they can join different groups here. So that's how I set it up. But what you may want to remember is that there are voice channels and there are text channels, and you can set all these things up in advance, and then you can just leave them here permanently so that participants can join anytime. But here, when I ran this project, the participants were told to join at 10 a.m. on Monday, every Monday, to talk to other students, because they were guaranteed that there would be students there. So let me show you a little bit more about Discord here. Again, the text channels. So these are some of the text channels that I set up. So I have welcome and rules. So there's some rules that I want students to follow. And then topics and questions, always post here, but I posted the topics and question 1 week at a time. And I deleted the topics and the questions from the previous week. So just one topic at a time. And I also have a text channel here where participants can post their own topics and questions. So let me give you an example how it looks on Discord. So I actually ran it until June actually. And the topic is sports. When they click topics and questions, they see these topics and questions. And as they talk with other people, they can still see the topics and questions here. So participation in the voice channel doesn't prevent them from seeing the topics and questions. So this is really helpful, I think. This is just the same. I want to show you how other parts of the topics and questions are shown on Discord here. And another thing that I also do is that at the end of the session, I ask the participants to complete a feedback form. So the feedback form is posted here, right below topics and questions. Yeah, maybe it is similar to Slack. I have heard about that as well, that Slack also allows you to create a lot of channels. Okay, so I already mentioned it, that there are also voice channels that you can create. And I changed things over the course of the project. So instead of saying group 1, group 2, group 3, I also label these groups by proficiency level. So if some participants don't feel comfortable jumping to advanced, then they may choose a basic group. And also I have some channels for adults as well. And I set the limit to 3 participants in a group here, because somehow in a group discussion, I feel like 3 or 4 is a really good number. Another big task for this project was to promote the opportunity so that I have enough participants, right? And I already shared this with you that I have some information on the website. I have a Facebook group. I have a flyer. When I participated in some events, then I also promoted it in certain events. I also connected with colleagues to try to get students from different countries to participate. One of my most successful efforts in promoting this was my participation in an event with Dr. Jo Miner. She's an expert in learner autonomy, and she was giving a speech to a university in the UK. And then when I shared the opportunity, then a teacher in Turkey actually encouraged his or her students to participate. And then I started to have quite a few participants from Turkey. So that was a really fruitful effort there. In terms of community building, I have to admit that perhaps I didn't do a great job with this yet, and I will explain that I also wanted to create a community where students got to know each other more and felt more comfortable. So I created the Facebook group, but I don't think that the interaction level was very high. They participated in that those weekly sessions, but maybe not beyond that. Okay, so let me go through this quickly to see if you have questions at the end. So I want to assess the project, and like I mentioned, I asked the participants to provide feedback at the end of each session. I didn't have a lot of responses, but some and useful. And also at the end of week 10, I developed a feedback form to allow them to provide more in-depth feedback. I also took notes, so I know that over the project, the period, I had over 100 participants. And if I show you Discord right now, you can see that there's still over 100 people there, but perhaps they're not talking. Also, there were about 12 to 20 participants in each session. And when they were there, they actually talked for an hour. I told them that you could just talk for 30 minutes and then you could just go, but they actually talked usually for an hour. And in their feedback form at the end of week 10, the participants indicated that they participated between 2 to 9 sessions, but I know a student who participated in all of the sessions. Overall, students reported overall satisfaction. So most chose 4 and 5 for each and all of the sessions that they attended. So that is really good. And this is consistent with some impact studies of some virtual exchange projects as well. This is some feedback at the end of week 10, and I had 8 responses, so not many, but some of the information I'm presenting to you is also based on the responses after each session. And you can see that all of them said that they enjoyed simply talking in English. And this is really nice to see. And again, this is consistent with previous research as well. And maybe you can attest to this, that when we can communicate in our target language, we feel the joy of simply communicating and talking with other people. So I want to summarize what participants enjoyed and appreciated. They enjoyed simply talking, right? They also appreciated the opportunity. They appreciated other students, other participants who were there, who were willing to share. They also indicated their speaking confidence. They felt more confident in speaking English, and some commented on their increased knowledge about English and the world. As I didn't mention that I had participants from about 5 different countries there. And these are some testimonials. Some students actually made relationships, right, with other students. They exchanged information and they helped each other out. So sometimes some relationships are formed through these opportunities. Some students over and over again told me that it was a happy time for them of the day or of the week. And maybe relating this to a bigger topic, social contact, social interaction is just so important for our well-being. And I was really happy to see this this effect on how they felt. Difficulty, these are also from the participants. 1 or 2 of them reported difficulty with the platform when something is new, and like I say, they can join at any time, then it's difficult for them at first. Sometimes other participants are not talkative. Sometimes it is difficult to understand others. So this is understandable. This is struggling through communication. And sometimes they say they don't have much to say. These are also suggestions from participants. They want to play more games and have different activities. Although my area of expertise is task-based, right, language teaching, or at least I have done research in it and have tried to create tasks, I still find it difficult to do it in an online environment. Some suggested having more people in a group instead of 3. And some suggested perhaps they could give feedback to one another speaking as well. And some students really want feedback, but again, I mostly want to provide them an opportunity to speak, and without a teacher intervening, this may be difficult. Other challenges from my perspective is the influx of new participants in every session. So I have to educate them over and over again about how to use the platform. Lack of diversity. So like I said, I had about students from 5 countries, but most participants are Vietnamese students because those are my connections. It was really heavy workload for me as the organizer. And there's some evidence of sense of relatedness, right? And competence, speaking confidence. But I say, perhaps there's little opportunity for autonomy because the questions and the tasks were provided to the students. But I see autonomy in the sense that they chose to participate in these activities voluntarily. So this is really a difficult issue. Institutional support, I will talk more about this. This is, yeah, I will. Okay, so recommendations from me to you, if you want to start something, is I still think that it's a worthwhile endeavor, right? Providing opportunities for students to use English with speakers from various backgrounds. And virtual reality, according to ODown 2020, will play an important role in its own right. Provision of topics, questions, tasks, or structure is important, but it is also important to give participants time for relationship building and solicit their ideas. So this is the issue of the workload. Committed group of learners will possibly reduce the workload and facilitate community building. Like I said, I had participants join at any time, so it was really difficult to help them to create a bond or to create a sense of community here. There's the potential of expanding this series into a course if the funding model can be identified. And I didn't have institutional support because it is part of my private academy, right? I am the institution. So my husband often tells me that you're just so good at doing things for free. You're not actually good at running it as a business. But my suggestion to you is to think about this. If you can tie it to a course, if you can seek institutional support, perhaps that will be easier on you. And it is a lot of work for the teacher who organizes it, for sure. And this is also important. Collaboration with colleagues to form a diverse group is necessary, right? So if you want to create a project, then maybe talk to people in advance, find support. And I am also open for collaboration, but if I do this again, I will need to create it as a course, and perhaps I will need to find funding for it in order to continue to do this. Okay, so that's that's the end of my presentation, and I'm open to questions, suggestions, and collaboration ideas. Let's see what time. Wow, I talked to 50 minutes. And my email is there. That's my private email. I have more information about Eduling on the website. And whenever I have ideas, sometimes I just do it. So that's why sometimes it's I don't have as much support as I should to do all these things. Okay, thank you so much everyone for listening, and thanks for all of your comments there. And I'm gonna stop here and see if you have questions. Yeah, support.
think I saw Anastasia raise her hand.
Oh, yeah, Anastasia. Or maybe she raised her hand earlier when I asked about. Okay. Were the conversations private, recorded? How did you oversee? Yeah. I didn't record it because I wanted the participants to feel comfortable talking. I oversaw it by, so let me show you the picture that in my slide that I didn't comment on. So here, I was there when the participants talked, right? And this is what I see, right? They didn't turn their camera on, but I could see which group was talking because you would see the microphone moving. So I was there to monitor them and to intervene or to help, mostly to help, but I didn't participate in any conversations. Oh, meeting recording, maybe changing notes that I think the recording is going to be shared later on TESOL's channel.
Yes, we'll publish. I think it takes about 2 weeks for them to publish it or sooner. Nancy Flores is really good about it. So make sure to subscribe to the TESOL YouTube channel and you will see it there.
Yeah. Could you talk a little bit more about community building? How do you involve parents? Oh, that's a good question, Ching Ching. So most of my participants are young learners in the sense that they are in middle school, high school. Some are older. So I promote it through Facebook, and sometimes I also talk with parents and ask them to share. But basically, I didn't talk with the parents so much, just as much so that they would encourage their children to join and maybe monitor the activity. I was gonna just say one more thing. I guess that whenever we think about these virtual exchanges, we think about English learners talking with native speakers. But actually, in many of my conversations with students, I always emphasize the fact that English is used as a lingua franca. It's more likely that students are going to interact with other non-native English speakers. And I still noticed this kind of fantasy about native speakers, as if students felt like they would learn so much from native speakers. So I strongly believe that opportunities like this are meaningful and are helpful. It doesn't have to be a conversation between an English learner and a native speaker. Yeah. So let me see. Anyone else have questions or suggestions? Is my email there. If you work with learners at a school or at a university, you can ask for more support, and I feel like it will be easier for you to do this because maybe it is easier for you to connect with another colleague from another country. And if it is supported within your institution, then I feel that it is easier because I do this as a private person running a private entity. I didn't really collaborate with other instructors, but maybe moving forward, I think I need to maybe I need to think about collaboration in advance. Thank you, Ching Ching. Like I say, sometimes when I have ideas, I just do it. And apart from organizing these opportunities, I also organize a lot of virtual events to bring in conversations and culture and music and art. And I just feel so much, I just get so much joy and energy out of doing it. So I keep doing it even when I didn't even think about research or presentation or collecting data or yes. The latest event that I organized was to celebrate the Mid-Autumn Festival. It was amazing. We had people reading books, we had people playing music. Okay, so I think maybe the last question to you is, after this presentation, do you feel inspired to do something like this, or do you feel inspired to start some virtual exchange?
Yes. I think I was inspired from the beginning when we connected, right, Lynn? When you were, I think we shared ideas about what we were doing, and then you said, I'm doing this too, and I'm doing this way. I think it's so amazing to be able to collaborate and share ideas, because we each bring a different kind of experience into this, and also similarities too. For example, the challenges of organizing it and the participation of the students too. So we really appreciate having your ideas today. And I hope that everyone feels inspired like we are to engage in this opportunity, because yeah, it gives students a lot of opportunities to meet each other and get to know people and learn together.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone, and thank you for the invitation. And if you would like to maybe, well, we have another webinar coming up from the Affiliate Professional Network Council on the topic of collaboration. So if collaboration is still on your mind, I invite you to participate in that event, which is gonna be on this Thursday at 7 p.m.
Oh, send us the link. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm not gonna keep you
We will
longer.
help
Thank you so
promote.
much.
We'll help promote your event, Lynn, so that everyone can participate.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much, Dr. Fung. And we are very honored that you could join us. And I hope everyone was able to learn a lot from this presentation. And we are going to release the recording soon. And please follow us on Facebook. The TESOL B-MEIS group has a Facebook. It also has a Twitter account at TESOL B-Multi. I put it in the chat. And we're always releasing information and having interesting conversations there. So we'll make sure to release all of the information there. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today.